Good afternoon. My name is Nancy Delanoche, and welcome to the ACT-IAC Emerging Tech COI member meeting. As you heard, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the ACT-IAC YouTube channel after this event. Now I will pass the mic to Marshall, who is the program's chair for the COI. Marshall, take it away.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is having a good day. So, like we said, the meeting is recorded. Just to be safe, we just ask that you mute your microphone and you turn off your camera during the recording. This is a member meeting on generative AI. Just giving you a quick introduction about the emerging tech community of interest. We have multiple groups. Obviously, the AI working group, the blockchain, DevSecOps. We also have Quantum, the disruptors in government, as well as IoT and smart infrastructure. Those different groups have meetings at different time during the month or during the year. Please check the ACT-IAC calendar for information. But today we're here to have a conversation about the GenAI series, and we have Google is going to talk to us about Workspace and Gemini, and the presenters are Nicolette Stikapov and Katie Tobin. So with that, I'll just give you a chance to take it over.
Great. Thank you, sir. So I'm going to go ahead and take over the screen share. Hi, everybody. My name is Nicolette Stepikoff. I'm going to be walking you through some stuff about Gemini today. Does everybody have access to the hand raise feature? Everybody see? Let's see. How about reactions? If you hit the little reaction at the bottom, it's a heart icon. Awesome. Thank you, Tim. Raise your hand if you have heard of Gemini. Okay, couple of folks, right? It is all the rage right now, right? AI, especially in government. That's where Katie and I work. We are part of Google Workspace public sector, so we solely focus on public sector. We don't touch anything in the private sector. So that's what we're going to be talking to you a little bit about today. So first, I want to talk to you about what I call what's in the box. So this is a quick journey. Imagine for a moment that you have a fleet of aircraft flying through increasingly turbulent airspace, right? We've all been on those airplanes. These planes are carrying precious cargo, right? Let's say IP, sensitive contracts, the trust of the US government, right? Compliance is always top of mind, whether you're in state and local or federal. So within our Workspace Enterprise Plus, we have a what's in the box. And what's here, you'll see all of our productivity tools, and you'll notice that Gemini is listed there, along with our collaboration tools and all of our admin tools, which is where you would actually administer the Gemini app, which is, we'll talk about that in a little bit today. And I bring up that sensitive IP, contracts, compliance, etc., because Workspace with Gemini and the Gemini app are all compliant. And again, we'll dive into that a little bit more today. But what does this look like? So for our most modern workspace, you get everything that's in the box plus more. So we have our one-to-one comparison. So you'll see that there, for everything that you're using in some of the other tools that you might see in your toolkit, we have a Google option, including Gemini. Okay, so that means that Gemini is included at no extra cost there. And then you have the same tools here for your Microsoft and Workspace. But what's also included here, this is where we get into the fun stuff, right? This is where we actually start talking about Gemini. So you'll notice I kind of breezed over those other slides there because I really want to get to the meat and potatoes here. So Google AI is, again, included in Workspace, and that's how you would get access to the Gemini app. So you would get access to Workspace with Gemini, the Gemini app, which is the Gemini Advanced middle box there, and then Notebook LM Plus. Notebook LM Plus is kind of like an interactive space where you upload data into a notebook, and then you ask questions only against the sources that you've provided it. So it really helps accelerate knowledge sharing, etc., because you can actually share these notebooks out with other people and they can collaborate and ask questions against those sources also. So it's a pretty nifty tool. Again, what's included? Gemini is included in Meet, Gmail, Docs, Sheets, Drive, Notebook LM. You have the Gemini Advanced app, which is what we'll talk about today, and Google Vids. So that's a lot like making a Loom video where you can quickly spin up a screen share. You can have Gemini create you a script and have Google Vids voice that script over for you so you don't have to record it or record yourself a million times, etc. So all of this is included inside of our Workspace bundle there. In addition to that, we have this new feature called watermarking. So again, you'll notice this is in the Gemini Advanced screenshot here, but we now have watermarking. And what this allows you to do is it allows you inside of Google Meet to put your watermark over your screen. That way, folks are taking screenshots, etc. Right? We all say, don't take screenshots. This is confidential, blah, blah, blah. People do it. We all know they do it. Here, you can add a watermark. So if they do take a screenshot, they'll have that watermark on their screenshot automatically. Again, that's included in Gemini. Gemini was the first enterprise-ready AI certified assistant. So why is this important? Because we went to bat first with AI. We weren't first at the table, right? We all know that. We weren't first at the table. However, we caught up and we were the first at the table to get certified with the Gemini and Workspace and the Gemini app. You will not be able to find that with our competitors. So as you're starting to talk about AI within your organizations, we encourage you to make sure that you're checking all the boxes. You'll also be able to decide where your data is processed, whether that's in the United States or the European Union. And this can help you meet those data residency regulations, such as ITAR or GDPR. So you get to choose that within the admin console. Again, we like to talk about this a lot. We are first enterprise-ready productivity AI tool, FedRAMP High, ISO, etc. And you can reach out to Google for all of these reports, so you have access to those. All right, let's talk a little bit about security, and then I'm going to show you a little preview of what I call Canva inside of Gemini. So again, we give you control over your data. And what does that mean? Your data is your data. We don't use your data to train our models. We actually use consumer data to train our models. So your data is solid. We're never going to use it for anything. You have control over it, and you get to identify and protect that data how you choose within the admin console. So you decide to use Gemini or the Gemini app, that's fabulous. You get full administrative control over that, including security and sovereignty. And then again, going back to it always, because we're in public sector, compliance. We are compliant. Let's talk about our security. So Google is fundamentally built with security in mind, starting from the ground up. What you're seeing here are pillars of secure by design infrastructure development and production practices. So each one kind of builds on top of each other, right? We begin with that purpose-built, hardened infrastructure, and its design serves and operates to reduce vulnerabilities. And that means that there's no third-party firmware or unknown supply chain dependencies, right? So at its core, we have a zero trust architecture. Each unique identity, each binary has a unique identity, and service-to-service communications require multiple authentication. With that strong authentication, right, we can evaluate that authentication across all of our layers and require additional admin verification. We have secure development practices. So our code isn't just secured in runtime, it's secured by design during development. All code is central in a centralized repository with strict access controls. So developers use secure hardware frameworks that include hardened and reviewed libraries. And every code change undergoes automated testing, analysis, and mandatory senior engineer review, especially for those risky codes when using a sandbox to kind of limit that potential exposure there. Once code is ready for deployment, we don't just push it live. Google enforces binary authorization, which means that only verified and approved code can run in production. We also not only encrypt in transit, but at rest by default. And this applies to all content inside of Google's infrastructure and metadata. So we do this to protect against insider threats, to ensure that there's no direct human access to production environments. Again, we also build binaries using the latest stable libraries, right, to minimize that risk of vulnerability. And then lastly here, our practices are validated by the highest industry standards. And so Google meets those industry standards, whether it's ISO, CGIS, FedRAMP, IL4, HIPAA, ITAR, et cetera. These certifications, I think, really reflect our commitment and our ongoing investment in keeping customer data secure. So I like to say that security isn't bolted on at Google. It's built in at every single layer from the ground up, from hardware to source code to how data is encrypted and handled in a production. Every element of Google is engineered for high trust environments, especially for public sector. So you're like, great, that's awesome, Nicolette, but what about Gemini? How do you secure Gemini? So let's walk you through how Gemini is designed with your data privacy and security as its absolute top priority, right? The core message here, if you look at this, is clear. Your data is your data. So we have Google's research generative AI models. This represents the vast innovation and prowess of Google's AI research. Gemini leverages that cutting edge Gen AI, which brings you the best AI innovations directly to not only Workspace, but your Gemini app, which is the Gemini Advanced feature. And these models will feed into other models that you start to use. So I say that Gemini, we don't use our models or your data to train your models, right? But you can use your data to train your models, which is nice. So if you look, if you notice the blue dashed box titled Your Google Workspace, right? This is, it's a critical concept. So inside of that boundary, we have fundamental principles set up. Gemini doesn't use, again, your data or previous prompts to train its model. And this is really a key differentiator in the core promise of Gemini, or what Google promises you as part of our principles. From these Gemini models, Gemini then generates output based solely on your user prompts. Okay, again, we don't train any of our models based off of your data. From there, we enter the customer data boundary. So that's represented by the green dash box. That's where your organizational data resides and interacts with Gemini. So within this boundary, a user enters a prompt into Gemini, maybe asking, help me write, help me organize, help me visualize, help me create a script, etc. And what Gemini does is it only uses the information or the documents that you reference for the user and make sure that it has access, it has been granted access to that data in order to provide or yield the result that the user is expecting, right? You'll see a little red X there. This is reinforcing that data access is strictly governed by you as the organization. Another vital point here highlighted in green: under no circumstances will Gemini allow prompts or your data to leak outside of your organization. And this is strong commitment to data confidentiality. In addition, it's up to your organization to make sure that you're setting up the administrative settings to ensure that nothing is leaked out. And then finally, you have that output indicating the completion of the interaction there. So in essence, this diagram illustrates Google's unwavering commitment to enterprise data privacy and security with Gemini. We've built this with the understanding that your data is a critical asset and its confidentiality and control remain entirely with you and how you set it up in the admin console. All right, I'm going to pause for a second. We have a fun demo, and it is a couple minutes long, but I just wanted to make sure that I'm getting questions answered. I think I saw a couple things in the chat here. Okay, thank you, Katie, for starting to answer these. Sync your phone. GSA blocks the use of native apps. Okay, let's see. Are there related security tools or approaches enterprise users could leverage in support of identifying or mitigating the various attack vectors, i.e. invisible prompts, model poisoning, and other malicious activity? So, Tim, this is a really good question. To be honest, we've been having this conversation for a while, and I have never been asked if there are tools or approaches that users could leverage. I don't know of any tools that would be outside of Google's purview. I know that internally at Google, we don't have any tools that monitor this. Everything is kind of set up within the admin console to make sure that Gemini is being used appropriately. And then it is outside of what we're talking about today, but we do have tools that monitor machines. So if you're using anything outside of Gemini or, uploading confidential data, et cetera, you get a pop-up saying you're not supposed to do this. And we've created a secure ticket. Basically, it's an investigation. With Workspace moving to Squarespace, how to handle DNS for companies using that product? Yeah, Katie, I'm assuming you mean Google domains. We should follow up on that one. Because if you are using a Google domain and it's moving to Squarespace, I think what I've read is that they're going to take care of that for you, and you'll just get a Squarespace account when you log in now, and you'll have to update your DNS. But is it Marshall? We'll follow up on that one. Okay, it looks like that was the chat. So let's move on to our demo. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna play this. If the sound doesn't come through, let me know. Obviously I work at Google. I'm not a Zoom user, so I'm hoping I did this right.
You can also just do the voice. Do your best Evan impression.
Okay, so I'm assuming that means that the audio is not coming through. Okay, thank you, Katie. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna try one more thing just because I like we're gonna do a tab, that way audio comes through here. There we go. All right, let's start this over.
Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into a really exciting feature within our Gemini app called Canvas. Think of Canvas as your personal creative launchpad. It's designed to take your ideas, even just a simple prompt, and transform them into something tangible. Whether that's a web page, an eye-catching infographic, an interactive quiz, a quick audio overview, or even the groundwork for a new application. And the exciting news? We've just supercharged Canvas with our latest Gemini 2.5 model, now equipped with pro coding skills. I'm going to show you just how incredibly easy it is to bring your concepts to life. Let's start right in the Gemini app. With a qualifying Google Workspace subscription, we provide access to this at no extra cost. For this demo, we'll tackle a real-world scenario. Imagine we work at the Montana Department of Transportation. You've probably heard about those frustrating toll bill scams, right? Well, here's the kicker. Montana doesn't even have toll roads, but their residents and visitors are still falling victim to these scams. So our goal is to create a public outreach campaign to spread awareness. We'll feed Gemini a detailed prompt outlining this exact situation. Then we will select the Canvas option within the prompt editor and click Submit. While Gemini is working its magic, I just want to touch on our core philosophy here. We want Gemini to be a powerful ally that clears your path to success, not something that adds another layer of complexity. That's why it's included in your subscription. We believe everyone should benefit from these tools. You'll find it integrated across all your applications, which means less time switching between different programs and more time focusing on what matters. Let's see what Canvas has come up with. And the great thing is, this is just the starting point. Directly within Canvas, we can refine this further. For example, I can just type in a new sentence or an idea that I want to add. And Gemini can even suggest edits or improvements to make it stronger. From here, we have options. We can incorporate these suggestions. Then we can easily export this to Google Docs and collaborate with the rest of our team. Or to really amplify our outreach, we can ask Gemini to generate a dedicated web page based on the information in this campaign. What's happening now is Gemini is actually creating the HTML code that will form a complete web application. Once Gemini finishes writing the code, we'll be able to preview its output as an actual functioning web page. It's pretty amazing. I recently showed this to a state government and they were thrilled. They mentioned how they've been putting off some web page development simply because their internal processes can be quite complex. It makes you think, are you encountering any similar challenges where a tool like this could really help streamline things? And there we go. Now that our web page is ready, Gemini automatically shows us a preview to see it in action. For the last step, and to show you how seamlessly this integrates, we can actually embed this HTML code directly into a Google site. This is another fantastic service that's included in a Workspace subscription. Google Sites can be made public or kept private, and the best part is there's virtually no cost or effort in spinning up the hosting infrastructure. It's all just a few button clicks. We simply copy the HTML code from Canvas, navigate to Google Sites, spin up a brand new Google site, and paste the HTML code directly. Google Sites shows a preview. We will insert, then drag to resize our web page for the Google site. And voila! Dynamically generated web page is now live within the Google site. Now, what if a web page isn't quite what you need? What if you're thinking bigger, like a dedicated application? Well, we can easily head back to Gemini and ask it to recreate this concept as an app right here in Canvas. Let's try this prompt. Based on this information, build a system for residents to report spam messages. We'll keep it open-ended to allow Gemini the creativity to create a custom application. However, you're always able to refine your prompt and get a more specific output from Gemini. When we ask Canvas to create an app like this, it initializes Firebase. For those who might not be familiar, Firebase is a powerful Google Cloud product. In fact, many state agencies used Firebase during the COVID-19 pandemic for developing contact tracing applications due to its reliability and scalability. What Canvas does is generate the foundational code for both the front end, what the user sees, and the back end, the server-side logic, significantly reducing the overall effort for you to fully deploy a production-ready application on Google Cloud Platform. Again, Gemini offers a preview of this newly coded application. We can even explore integrating more advanced Gemini features directly into the app. For instance, imagine we want the app to analyze a suspicious message. Let's add Gemini features into our application. Now Canvas is adding in the Gemini API to analyze the reported scam message for common scam indicators. Canvas provides a live preview of the application code. That includes the Gemini feature that we just added. As an example, I will paste a sample message into the text box. Now I will click on this Analyze Message for Scam Indicators to show the power of the newly integrated Gemini API. Fantastic! Here is our AI analysis results. Direct AI feature integration like this is an evolving area, but the potential to build truly intelligent applications directly within Canvas very quickly is immense. So, as you can see, Canvas, powered by the new Gemini 2.5, isn't just about creating content. It's about rapidly developing functional solutions, from informational web pages to interactive applications, all starting from a simple idea.
All right. Questions. Thank you for telling me the audio was good, Daniel. We have a couple more things, couple of other demos for you, but before I move on to those, questions, thoughts? Do you think that's useful to use Canvas? You can use the reactions icon, throw a little heart. If you could create a website or code without anything. Let's see, does Gemini Workspace work across the Google App platform? For instance, could I say create a Google Doc based on the Google email and share it with someone in my Google contacts? Daniel, this is the best question ever. So you can have Gemini within Google Workspace create documents for you. And what you would do is in your prompt, you would mention other documents or emails. What the last part though of saying, okay, this document is ready, Gemini, share it with someone, that part is still manual. And we want to keep it manual. And the reason why is because that's the security aspect of it. We want the user to go in and say, these are the individuals that need access. Here's what type of access they need. And we need you to be able to also pull that back. So at this point in time, we are not giving Gemini access to share data. Yes, thank you, Katie. Good question.
And I can actually provide an example of how these things work together. The other day, I had a slide presentation, and I wanted a summary of it to send as the body of an email to introduce the 60 slide deck that I'm sure no one had time to read. And so I went to Docs, and there's an email template tool in there. So I just, creating an email, put the email address in, and then I said, hey, Gemini, write me basically a cover letter to a senior executive. So gave the title, so they knew it wasn't necessarily a technical person, but like very executive, based on this slide deck. Summarize what's in it and propose a meeting for next week. And so it did that, and I got to review, put it in there. I tweaked a couple of things. It's usually pretty good the first time. You always need the human. We're not working ourselves out of a job, but it made it a lot easier. And so then I hit go, and it used the persons, they were in my contact list. So I didn't have to fat finger the whole address. And then I added a couple of other people. And so that was really, really easy. And then I thought, well, what would be an even faster way to show these, 60 slides? And I used a tool called Google Vids, which is new. I'm not sure if anyone has used it yet. And I said, hey, Vids, take this slide deck, make me a video. And so it turned 60 slides into like a 1.5-minute video, just showing the highlights and it went through the slides and it gave some, a voice track, and I could have recorded it over, but it was good enough. So you can like get a lot of juice out of one project. You could turn it, a document into slides or vice versa. You can translate it into another language, which I know people with constituents, multilingual constituents, find really helpful. And then you can also turn it into a video when you're done.
Sorry about that. Questions about what Katie explained about how everything's integrated? Thoughts? Does that seem useful or different than what we're doing today? Okay. So I have a couple more things to show you. What we're gonna do here is let me make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Katie, we can see the notebook.
Yeah, I'm wondering show us an emoji if you have used Notebook LM before, because if you have a Gmail account, which most of you probably do, you have access to this already. A not as cool version. This is the pro version that comes with a Workspace license. Gotta explain that difference. But I know a lot of people who use this in their personal life. No one, really? Oh, we are gonna make your day. So what if you could easily, you don't need coding experience. I have a liberal arts degree. Like Nicolette also, she's a customer engineer, but she is not like, a computer science type person. We do this all the time. This is very easy. So you take the sources that you want, you upload them. They can be multilingual. So check this out. You can see some of these YouTube links are in German or Spanish. So the multilingual, multimedia, like multimodal. So slides, they can be Word docs, they can be Office formats, PDFs, websites. I saw someone do it with someone had written something in Hebrew on a napkin and they took a picture of it. So it was handwritten foreign language, non-Latin characters, a photo of it, put it in there. And then you can ask it questions and it only looks at the data. It will not hallucinate, right? If you were to ask this one, who is the person standing behind Nicolette right now in the princess costume, it would not venture a guess. It would say, based on my sources, I don't know, right? So this is really helpful. Let's say you are planning a conference and you can put all of the agenda items, the slides in here, the conference website, and then you can share it with people. And then they can ask all their questions of like, what time is lunch on Tuesday? Where's the host hotel? Who's speaking from FBI, right? Rather than bugging you, the organizer, it's all in there. And so you upload the files, it will summarize it. You can ask questions to your heart's content. It will do a mind map. Sometimes that's really helpful for people to visualize information. But then there's more. It does a podcast. And so think of all the time you guys spend in the car, especially now that there's return to office, all of that car time. And yes, you can be listening to music, you can be listening to whatever you want. Might I venture to suggest you can listen to this? And it's not a robot voice podcast. It's actually really interesting. It's two people, and whatever it is you throw at them, a GAO report, the latest spending bill, they make it very interesting. And so they'll be talking about it and what's important. And what Nicolette's going to show in the demo is you can even interrupt it and ask it questions. So it becomes an interactive podcast. All right, ready to go, Nicolette?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Maybe my volume is not on. Hold on. Okay. So here we can see.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a whole stack of sources, actually, and plunging right into this fascinating, sometimes terrifying world of rescue and safety. We're looking especially at places like space and aviation. Critical environments.
Definitely high-stakes stuff.
Exactly. And the sources we've got, well, they're all over the map. Urgent letters from, world leaders, detailed cybersecurity audits, it paints a pretty complex picture of how we try to protect people.
Oh, hey, I think our listeners got something to say.
Hi, I will be a passenger on a commercial flight soon. Do I need to worry about cybersecurity?
That's a really good question, and it's understandable you'd be thinking about that, especially with everything we've been discussing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's on a lot of people's minds these days. So, do you need to worry in a way that will ruin your flight? Probably not.
Think of it this way. The aviation industry, as we were just about to say, has an incredibly strong safety record. That didn't
So you can see here that not only did she uploaded her own sources. So as she said earlier, it's not going to hallucinate, et cetera. It's going to look at exactly at those sources. But she generated that podcast audio and is able to ask and interact questions against that audio instead of having to read through or use the chat feature. So on the go, or especially those with accessibility needs, I've seen high use cases for that, where they can go and interact with that content and not have to, enhance their screen or anything like that, because they can use that audio feature. So if you, if you haven't used Notebook LM, even in your personal life, I encourage you to go do so. It's notebooklm.google.com. Very, very fun tool. A lot of our government customers are starting to use Notebook LM. It can even compare contracts. So if we all deal with contracts, right? You upload 2 contracts side by side and you can ask questions against those contracts. So to start comparing them instead of reading those massive contracts that we all get on a daily basis, right? I will note that inside of Gemini, what is coming is the ability for that podcast feature to actually read you the yielded result and any of your documents. So you could say, hey, Gemini, look at this document, and it will actually generate that podcast. So you're going to see that podcast or audio generation come out through a lot of the Google tools in the near future. Yes, students. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I wish I had this in grad school. I don't know. I mean, I would have gotten an A. Let's be real. Grad school, you just pass. So don't.
Are you ready for a career?
Let's also talk a little bit about another use case here.
Are you ready for a career that's exciting, challenging, and vital to the safety of millions? Consider becoming an air traffic controller. Dreaming of a career above the clouds? Air traffic control offers just that and so much more. Let's dive into the high-stakes world of air traffic control. Air traffic controllers are the unseen heroes of aviation, guiding countless flights safely every day. Every shift is unique, requiring keen focus, sharp decision-making, and constant communication. Watch the skilled professionals at work coordinating countless flights. Here's a glimpse of the dynamic communication involved in air traffic control. Success in this career demands a unique blend of skills. Let's take a look. Being an air traffic controller requires deep focus and quick decision-making at all times. Experience how controllers make rapid, critical decisions under pressure. It's not a solitary job. Teamwork and clear communication are vital for success. This job is challenging, yet highly rewarding for those who are up to the task. Ever wondered how you'd react in high-pressure situations? Watch an example here. Experience the satisfaction of guiding safe takeoffs and landings in this montage. Ready to start? Rigorous training prepares you for the high-stakes world of air traffic control. Here's a brief look at some of the training simulations. Interested in pursuing this career? Here are the steps to apply. We invite you to become a part of a community that keeps the skies safe. Listen to what our team members say about their rewarding careers. Take the first step towards an exciting career in air traffic control today.
So going back to Katie's earlier point, this was made with Google Vids. Yeah, Sanjay, it is made with Google Vids. And this, Katie, correct me if I'm wrong, but you typed up, or you didn't even type up a script. You had Gemini create this for you using prompts inside of Google Vids. So she didn't have to go and source the music and the pictures and do all the editing inside of Google Vids. She brought up vids.google.com, gave Gemini a prompt and then maybe adjusted that prompt a little bit after she watched the video the first or the second time, and it created the video for her. So no longer do you have to create these short videos and then sit down and write your script and do the editing and make sure that it's correct and send it out, etc. You can do all of that with inside of Google Vids using Gemini. Awesome. Okay, I think that was everything we wanted to show. Katie, any last minute closeouts before we kind of hand it back to the team?
Yeah, I hope this has got people thinking and wondering how you can do your job differently. You know, we like to say that if you're not cheating at your job by using GenAI, what are you doing? Like, you're not trying hard enough, I guess, because it's just the sky's the limit. And so it might feel awkward the first time that you're doing a prompt. Actually, Nicolette, do you have handy the link to the government guide to GenAI prompting?
Let me get that for you, ma'am.
Okay, because that's something that actually Nicolette wrote. You were in the presence of a celebrity here, and it's a way to use these tools, whether it's Gemini or something else that your employer has, for your actual job. Because so often you hear about, oh, this is so helpful for marketing. This is so helpful for customer service, and like that's not what you do as a government person, right? Like, I used to work for the government. I would always gloss over those examples. I don't do marketing. So we do have things that are specific to you and your needs. And again, the good thing about Gemini is it is FedRAMP. You can use it for CUI. You can use it for sensitive data. So, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. We can help you figure out how to adapt these tools to your work processes. It's a really fun part of our jobs, is to help you guys do your jobs better and, support the American people better. So we really appreciate your time and your interest.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you, Nancy. Yeah, feel free to unmute if you have questions. Oh, I love that. Andrea, hopefully I'm saying your name right. I have a friend who's Andrea, so sorry if I butchered it, but spelt the same way. She's saying, or they're saying, just used it to make a generative AI starter guide. Thank you, ma'am. For GSA acquisition professionals in conjunction with another LLM. That's wonderful. So instead of writing that themselves, they used AI to help. Love it. Other questions, use cases? Oh, okay. I like that. That's funny, Daniel, because Katie and I always talk about how great Gemini is. And then we recently talked about how, or building a prompt workshop, especially because everybody gets into Gemini, Daniel, and I'm sure you're asking this or saying you would really like this session because of this, right? Once you get into Gemini, you're like, this is great, but sometimes it yields a result and you're like, what was that? How in the world did you get that out of my prompt, right? So what we started doing was we actually have a session that's specifically around prompting Gemini, and we have a little bit of hands-on for that. Daniel, we actually work with your folks. I would ask Amar, I think Singh is his last name, see if we can get something worked up for you. How about API access for workspace items? So we do have API access, and you could build, I'm going to bring up the developer page while I'm talking. So I might pause for a minute because I'm really bad at multitasking. But we do have APIs available for you, and you can also use these on GitHub. So if you have a GitHub account, I'm going to put these inside of the chat for you, Marshall. But we have a whole developer site, and we have a lot of folks building their own tools with inside of Workspace. So for example, Katie and I were working with a customer a while back, and they needed to put banners on top of emails to quote unquote, like classify them. And we actually built a tool for them using the Google Workspace APIs. And the nifty part about that is what we built actually works in all email platforms, which a lot of other folks cannot say occurs. So APIs are there for all of our core apps, so you can build any custom integrations, etc., that you're looking for. Good question. Anything else, folks? All right. Well, I will give the floor back to the ACT team. We really appreciate your time. I know that sitting here through some of these, I know you're all members and etc., but dedicating time to this is a lot to take out of your day and make sure you're focused in on what's coming, especially for government. So again, we really, really appreciate it. Happy Tuesday. And with that, we'll hand it back over.
All right. Thank you.